Hello, my name is Dan Mendelevitz, and welcome to Bridging of Ages. As you've seen in the past, we've talked a lot about the intergenerational teams and how they work together. So, we're going to be talking today about embracing that intergenerational innovations. What are intergenerational innovations? It's the collaboration that generations can do, different ages, different experience levels, those unique contributions that each one comes up with, and how they interface and interlock. We can unlock breakthroughs through ideas through that age diversity. And we're going to look at some strategies for fostering that intergenerational innovation because we really want to harness that power. And we're going to look at navigating those challenges. We're going to maximize the impact because people with different experience levels come at a problem differently. And that is a strength, not a weakness. So if you're looking at your teams and they're not intergenerational, you are going to find that you're missing that piece that allows you to have the experience, the way to look at things differently, and that brilliance that comes from looking at something new. So let's look at the power of intergenerational collaboration. Intergenerational innovation is really a blending of those diverse age groups and really combine all those varied life experiences. So think about when you approach something for the very first time, and you might not even have been able to know the questions to ask. And as you learn, those questions came out. And if you had somebody who had more experience who was mentoring, you could blend those ideas that you had with their ideas. So it really accelerates that idea generation. If you can take those historic insights that somebody who's been doing it a while with a new contemporary perspective. And that has a lot of strength to it. And as you go along, this is really going to become increasingly critical for your organization because you need that age diversity in your teams. And it has been shown over and over again that age diverse teams always outperform homogeneous groups in creativity, decision making, innovation. And why is that? Because they have the opportunity to have different perspectives and to meld those and to collaborate together. And it also, if you think about it, it reflects better on your customer base or who your organization serves. So if you can take that broader experience of skill sets, you really create a richer problem-solving environment. And if they're solving problems and they're getting things done, that feeds back, and then your team becomes much more satisfied and the retention rates increase. Companies as big as IBM and Procter and Gamble have found intergenerational teams to create breakthroughs. And you can find it with smaller organizations also. If you think about it, how do you look at things from your group of experiences that you've collected over your lifetime? And if you are open to learning and learning a new way of doing things, you can collaborate with people with different ages and experience levels. So, how does contrasting perspectives spark creativity? Think about those generational viewpoints. Where'd you come from? What did you have when you were younger? What were the experiences? We talk a lot about digital natives being immersed in technology from birth, as opposed to those who learned it later in life. But that doesn't mean the people who learned it later in life aren't very adept at it. Matter of fact, a lot of them were the ones who created it. And the problem solving that they had to go through in order to create something that didn't exist can help your organization and your business. Whereas the fresh perspective that comes from the younger people in your group can meld with that, and they can remind these people who have been doing it for a while of why it looks different all of a sudden. But it always comes back to that collaboration. Are you enhancing it? Are you setting up those mentoring situations that go both directions? And as we've talked about in other shows, if a mentoring situation doesn't have both people, let's look at how contrasting perspectives spark creativity. Think about the contrasting generational viewpoints on your team. Think about how they can actually boost as opposed to slow down creative output. You can really get a good jump of 20, maybe 30% because you now have a collaborative environment. So we want to expose ourselves to this diverse thinking, these different experience levels. Why? Because the different perspectives of your experience and your age are strengths. Why are they strengths? Because each perspective becomes additive. Now, if I'm there with a lot of experience and I've had to go through a lot of problem solving to get there, have made my share of mistakes and found different ways of getting past those, that experience is very rich. Somebody who is newer to the process doesn't have as much of that. However, they come at it with a fresh eye, with a new way to look at it. They are able to hear things that I cannot. Now, if we are both open to collaborating and sharing our experience and our output and our viewpoints, that is amplifies what it is more than the sum of our two parts. And if you think about it, doing that over a team, it really shows the power of an intergenerational team. Of course, you really have to be open to the communication. I understand in our fast paced environments that a lot of us are in nowadays, sometimes we don't take that time. But the pause and the preparation actually saves you time downstream because now you've looked at it from different angles. Remember, you want somebody who's coming at it new to tell you what it looks like when it's new. You want somebody who's experienced to say, this is what I found as I've used it. So, with that open communication, you can help each other. You mentor each other. So now the mentoring is going two directions. You really are partners and you're really creating this age diverse innovations because it's important to understand that the power of doing that. So now you have a way to have those contrasting perspectives really spark creativity. So let's take a look at how age inclusive cultures value all voices. The value of the voices of all ages and experiences, they create that culture that's really generally values. Now, remember, as a leader or an owner of a company or wherever you are in that process, It's incumbent on you to encourage this because the demographics are changing, people are working longer, and you have the opportunity to tap into a vast array of experiences. So if you create that culture that really genuinely values that diverse age, input, output, it really requires a leadership commitment. And you have to ask yourself, are you ready to do that? And how are you bringing people into your organization? Are you using tools that exclude entire groups because nobody's ever checked the parameters that they look at? Often people use it right out of the box and have no idea what's written into that software. So when you have these intergenerational different cultures and different experience levels, you're really going to have that opportunity to implement really breakthrough ideas because now you have a diverse set of experiences and perspectives. So how are you going to utilize that? Are you going to set up a feedback loop that allows people to collaborate, talk, pull it apart, put it back together, see how it reflects on your customer base and the people your organization serve? You as a leader need to make sure that's set up. And of course, it always comes back to mentorship. If you don't set that up properly, it's not going to work. You need to get away from those power structures that may slow that down. But remember, mentorship always has to be bi-directional, or it's not totally successful. So you have your senior employees really imparting experience, and your younger staff is really looking at new ways to look at a problem. And what that does is eventually everybody starts looking at the problem in new ways. You create a situation where you're raising all the boats. You start to foster trust. You break down assumptions. Those assumptions we have about people at different experience and age levels impede our progress. We really have to leverage that collaboration. That, as a leader, is incumbent on you to foster. You want to remove those age-related communication barriers. And we've talked about this on previous shows. People communicate different depending on their experience and a lot of time and age. However, if you set up a central way for people to talk to each other efficiently, that can work well. It could, whether it's Slack channels or text or email or just talking face to face, see what works. And allow people the flexibility to use other systems that work well for them, but you need to find a central way that everybody communicates. And you can teach this. These are skills you can teach people at any age and level. The assumption that people who are older can't pick up technology really is just an assumption. It's not true. And to say that younger people can't do the work is absurd. They're in there to learn and to make things happen. They approach it differently. This is what this whole intergenerational team and cultural values talks about. You really have to have buy-in, not just from your staff, but from the leaders. Are you really leading from the front? Are you telling them that this is important to your organization? Or are you pushing out older workers or not allowing younger ones in? If you don't incorporate these techniques and show that the leadership is age diverse, then your workers are not going to know that that's something that you value. So we really want to value all the voices in all the ages and all the experience levels because that raises all boats. That creates a much more innovative and productive environment. That puts you ahead of your competition. Well, let's look at the challenges and impact. So, we've already talked about a little bit of this. The challenges include these different communication preferences, how conflicts are resolved, their way of effective interventions that you can set up. Are we training? One of the most important things that I have found is the act of active listening. We often listen waiting for the other person to finish so we can say the thing that we're thinking about. But if you're doing that, you're not actually listening to what they had to say. Active listening is really tuning in to the other person and what they have to say. And that works for written communication too. Did you actually read it or did you just scan it? Are you really listening? Active listening is incredibly powerful because now you heard them. And you can even, one of the good techniques in active listening is to repeat back to them the synopsis of what you heard. So now you're really communicating. Now you're reaching across those age and experience divides. So it reduces those misunderstandings. It boosts your productivity. And now you're really creating that culture that enhances that communication, makes your teams much more agile across those generations. And you will have people like myself who are intensely into lifelong learning. There's never a point when I want to stop learning. So think about investing in that cross-generational training that will bring that communication together. Set up some more flexible career paths. People at different parts in their lives may want to do things a little differently. I had this happen to me. I had gone up through the chain. I'd become a director level. I did all that, but I no longer wanted to do that, but I wanted to contribute. So I brought myself to a level where I was doing more project and program management because that's what I love doing. And initially, I had trouble convincing people that I could do that work without wanting to move back up the corporate ladder. It wasn't important to me at that point in my life. And there are plenty of people who want to do that, and that's wonderful, and I wish them well. But I decided at that point in my career, that's no longer what I wanted to do. But the perception, the assumption was he's not going to fit into this technically lower level thing. Well, it turned out I fit in very well, and I was much happier with it because I was doing the stuff I loved. I loved connecting the dots and bringing people together and making projects and programs happen. And the opportunity to implement some of the things that I've talked about here in order to set up a better communication, to talk across generations and experience levels. All very important. So I did the investment of that cross-generational training and talking. I talked to my team and helped teach them active listening. And we created quite a powerful, innovative team. I love the fact that I was getting information and such from younger workers who had a different perspective, and they got to learn from me also. So it really greatly enhances your competitive advantage. So we're going to take a break. You hear from our sponsor. When we come back, we'll look at some of the ways that you can implement these actions. welcome back. If you're just joining us, welcome to Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Mendelevitz. We're talking today about embracing intergenerational innovations. So let's look at the action items that you can do in order to start to implement some of the ideas that we talked about today. Action item 1. Harnessing multi-generational strengths. Do you have a way to combine the talents of the different age groups? Are you fostering active creativity? Are they having the breakthroughs that you want? Are you seeing the innovation and the creativity increase? First off, do you understand what the multi-generational strengths are? Do you know the strengths of your more experienced and older workers? Do you know the strengths of your younger and less experienced workers? Do you have systems in place in order for them to talk to each other, to mentor each other, to communicate properly? So if you really want to harness that multi-generational strength, you need to combine the talents of those different age groups. That will foster the creativity. That will give you the breakthroughs, the innovation, and the productivity. Action item 2. Value diverse perspectives. This ties in with the first action item. Are you appreciating the varied viewpoints? Are you overcoming stereotypes of what you think different ages and experience levels do? Are you finding ways to make it more inclusive? Are you creating a more productive environment? Are you teaching active listening? Are you just putting out statements and saying, oh, we value diverse perspectives, but not implementing it? Are you open to hearing a different way of doing things from people at different experience levels? If you're somebody older, will you listen to somebody who's younger? If you're somebody younger, do you dismiss somebody who's older? Or do you value it? Are you open to learning from that other person? We as leaders have to infuse this into our teams. We have to model it. We have to show them that it's important that we as leaders appreciate the different perspectives. So if you are valuing those diverse perspectives, that really is going to build that appreciation of the various viewpoints. Action item 3. Continuous learning and adaptability. As I talked about before, I'm a lifelong learner. I am always open to learning something new. I love bringing in more that I can understand and learn from, and people I can learn from. And I'm always open to learning from people at different ages and different experience levels. So I really want to promote that learning for other people. Now, it doesn't always have to be formal, like classes or seminars or those kind of things. It can just be two people talking. It can be a mentoring situation. It can be simply being open to listening to new and innovative ideas and to celebrate them. Does everybody on your team know that when they are bringing something forward, that their ideas are valued? Now, we all know we're not going to use everything that somebody comes up with. There's just not room for it, and they aren't always valid. However, we need to air them out, and we need to make an environment that allows people to come forward with those things. Otherwise, we are making it difficult for them to innovate, to contribute. And some of your best people are going to leave. So it's really important to have that continuous learning environment, to be adaptable, and really promote that learning and innovation, because that will build on your teams and their success and their productivity. So now for today's tip of the day. Prepare for the future. A lot of what happens in day-to-day business and organizations is we just let the future happen to us. We like to think we plan, but we really don't. Because we're usually in the heat of battle and we're fixing things, we're making things happen, we're trying to move forward. But a lot of the preparation goes out the window. Are we setting up a culture where people are learning? Do we have agile mindsets across the generations? Are we investing in that cross-generational training? Are we creating flexible career paths that allow people to work in different ways of online, in-person, being able to have the flexibility to take care of some things outside of the workplace so that their head is clear and they're always involved when they're there? Are we willing to be adaptable to that? Or do we want to have everything controlled? Because when everything's controlled, it snuffs out that innovation. But we have to plan for that. We have to look ahead. We have to be open to hearing the people saying, I'd like to see us do this. And I understand you can't implement everything and you can't do it right away all the time. But it's important for your teams and your organizations to understand that you're open to that. Are you there preparing for the future, or are you just letting it happen to you? And your future will be demographics that are across age groups. And that's really where the future is going. It happens whether you like it or not. So why don't you plan for it? So when you're prioritizing this, you're really helping your competitive advantage. Because now people are free to be innovative, they become more productive, and you are truly preparing for your future. This has been Bridging of Ages. My name is Dan Mendelevitz. I ask you if you could please subscribe to my YouTube channel. The code is up in the corner. This has been another episode of Bridging of Ages. Invest in brain power, fuel brilliance.